Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. We're glad to have you here on the Wake Up America show. Thanks so much for tuning in. Don't forget to click like. If you're a regular on the show, I know you already like the content, but if you're here for the very first time today, then make sure that you subscribe to the channel. The Wake Up America show is live streaming every Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Time. So don't forget, if you're on the East Coast, a little bit later, and some of you even get up way early on the West Coast and join us 2 hours earlier, and we're grateful for you for that. Don't forget to click like, subscribe, and join us every Monday through Friday. We'll be very grateful for you for that. All right, the big story today, Elon Musk is threatening to sue the Anti-Defamation League for defamation. He claims that the nonprofit organization's statements about rising hate speech on the social media platform have torpedoed X's advertising revenue. It's become a big deal. It's been trending on Twitter for the last couple of days. So let's get an expert on the opinion, someone who has a little bit of experience with the organization themselves. Let's speak to an Orthodox Jew and conservative lawyer, Ron Coleman, who's joining us live right now. Good morning, Ron. Thank you for joining us so early today.
My pleasure, Austin. Thanks for having me on.
Sure. Ron, for our listeners, would you mind giving us a little bit about your background with the ADL? You have some personal experience with them, don't you?
Yes, actually, I was an ADL intern when I was in law school at Northwestern, and although I didn't put this in the article, I actually married an assistant counsel for the ADL, Jane Coleman, the writer who is at Legal Insurrection now. So we actually have very nice little greetings from Abe Foxman on the occasion of our engagement and our wedding. And it was a place that was, not necessarily consistent with my most conservative views at the time or with Orthodox Jewish worldview, but nonetheless, it was understood to be an important civil rights group that did important things protecting Jews from certain aspects of anti-Semitism.
Understood, Ron. So you know a little bit about how the organization works. You said in the article that you wrote for Newsweek that there has always been a bit of a liberal slant, but it seems as if it's no longer a slant. It's more of a 90-degree angle now towards the left, which a lot of people have complained about, but they seem to just be labeling absolutely everything anti-Semitic, even if it has nothing to do with Judaism. I saw, for example, that they're attacking, I believe it's Chaya Raichik, who is the head of Libs of TikTok, for no reason whatsoever compared to Judaism. How have they gone off the rails?
Well, first of all, I think it's important to understand that they're not necessarily calling Chaya Raichik an anti-Semite. That would be preposterous. She's also Orthodox, as you know. But rather that they consider their mission to have expanded beyond anti-Semitism to anti-racism. And that's anti-racism with sort of a TM at it, because most people are against racism, but anti-racism is a thing, kind of like Antifa. Everyone's against fascism, but not everyone is Antifa or Antifa. So anything that is basically the values of the Anti-Defamation League are those of the Democratic Party in its current far left incarnation. And it has become a de facto attack dog for the Democrats when Trump was in office. And even after he left office, they regularly attacked him, who is viewed by most people who are seriously involved in Jewish life easily the most philosemitic president ever. For the Anti-Defamation League, that wasn't good enough. He was Donald Trump. He was the opposition, and that's what the ADL has become.
Can you lay out for us the details about Elon Musk's gripes with the ADL? Why specifically is he threatening to sue them?
Well, from what I understand, his threat actually comes down to something sounding a little bit more in the nature of what we call tortious interference with contract or with prospective economic advantage than defamation. Although if you were to file this lawsuit, and again, I'm not representing Elon Musk, and I'm not privy to exactly what his lawyers may or may not have told him, but you would plead both. And from what I understand, ADL has been very aggressive in leaning on advertisers essentially since the time Elon Musk took over Twitter, uh, discouraging them from advertising on Twitter in order to put pressure, economic pressure on him, because he departed in many meaningful ways from the heavy-handed censorship that existed under Jack Dorsey. And ironically, the amount of anti-Semitism on Twitter there is anti-Semitism on Twitter. I encounter it frequently. It doesn't prevent me from getting to sleep any earlier or later than I otherwise would go to sleep. Doesn't cramp my style, but I can't perceive any difference whatsoever in anti-Semitism under Musk as compared to under Jack Dorsey. And believe me, I would know.
That's interesting. If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, good morning. Glad to have you here. Thanks so much for tuning into the show. Don't forget to click like and subscribe if you're enjoying the content that we're listening to right now. I'm speaking to Ron Coleman. He is an Orthodox Jew and a conservative lawyer about his piece in Newsweek magazine that is titled, "The ADL Has Lost Its Way. Elon Musk is Right to Stand Up to Its Censorship." Now, Ron, we've seen organizations like the ADL and the ACLU and CARE and others just take an absolute leap off a cliff when it comes to what their original foundational stances were on issues like free speech. It used to be that the ACLU, for example, would defend the free speech of the Ku Klux Klan to go out and march. But now the ADL is out attacking people ostensibly for opposing the genital mutilation of children in regards to transgender youth. How has it gotten into that kind of politics? Is it just that it's not like there's not enough anti-Semitism to fight out there. Why has it taken such a turn into these not just identity politics, but I mean, we're talking about leftist gender politics here, which has nothing to do with defending Jewish values.
Jewish values or Jewish people? Far from it. I mean, I suppose you could argue for some kind of nexus on the issue of gender, this sort of gender surgery that you're referring to, gender affirming care, and threats to circumcision. But I don't really think that's where the ADL is coming from here. I think the real answer here is that the ADL is, as I said, it is a cadre. It's an organization of the National Democratic Party. The Internal Revenue Service no longer pays any attention whatsoever to 501c3 organizations, on the left at least, acting in a frankly partisan manner, and that's the case with virtually every one of them. They're overtly political. Right now, to be a Democrat and to be a liberal, you have to sign on to gender ideology and gender affirming care to the extent, as my wife has written in Legal Insurrection, actually, that you have states like New Jersey suing local school boards. Remember a few months ago or a year ago, we were saying, well, if they're going to control the national politics, if there's a uniparty, still we can affect things by getting local. What Democrats are doing now is having the center, whether it's nationally or at the state level, screw down on local pushback. All that is part of what the Democrats are doing, and the ADL is for whatever Democrats are doing. It's run by a person who is out of the Obama White House. He had no background in anti-defamation activism and Jewish activism. That's what the ADL is about now, and these organizations have been captured by the Democratic Party in toto. They always had a friendly relationship with it, but whatever the Democrats are pushing, whatever their I don't know if it's really the base, but whatever their activist base and to some extent their donor base want, that's what their proxy organizations are going to do.
Ron, the ADL is specifically cracking down on what Elon Musk calls free speech. It's become a common tactic of the left now to not just try and target conservatives and libertarians like ourselves at our places of business and our work and our specific jobs, but for people like myself and yourself who have podcasts, and I'd love for you to plug your podcast here in just a minute. For those of us who have podcasts, is to go after our advertisers. Now, they're going after Elon Musk's advertisers, and they've been quite successful. Does Elon Musk have a case? Do you see this as a free speech issue? Because usually the historic definition has been one in regards to the government cracking down on free speech. Should the ADL be able to run roughshod over the culture of free speech that we try and enjoy on the internet?
It's a very good question. It's not so clear that he does have a case. When I was representing Laura Loomer, a Florida judge said, "No, you don't have a case. CARE is entitled to tell Twitter its opinion about Laura Loomer and to encourage Twitter to to cancel her account, to ban her from Twitter." Our argument was there is a line that you cross when you go beyond merely expressing an opinion, where you actually pressuring or coordinating with that organization in a way that violates what are considered to be the rules of the road for commerce and good faith commercial practice. It is, however, it is a hard line, and a hard line to draw, and it's not entirely clear that Elon Musk can draw it here. I will say, however, that the distinction between private organizations such as ADL and the government and the social media platforms themselves is now known to be a lot more questionable. We see that to a large extent, the state, and when I say the state, I mean both the federal government and state and some local governments, have outsourced censorship in a way that is impermissible. And that's an issue that we've now put before the United States Supreme Court in O'Handley versus California. That's a super important case, and it's a super important issue. I don't know the extent to which ADL is coordinating with government or with quasi-government actors such as the Democratic Party, which runs the government. But if you could find the right dots to connect in a complaint, it might go somewhere.
Man, these are some interesting questions here. If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, good morning. Glad to have you here. Make sure you click like and subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the content that you're hearing right now. I'm speaking to Ron Coleman about Elon Musk threatening to sue the ADL for, ironically, defamation. We'd be glad to have you come back and join us every morning, Mondays through Fridays at 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Time. Now, here's really where it gets down to brass tacks, is this question of, like, if the government is involved and has been, historically telling X or Twitter what to do, then that creates a whole sticky issue. And obviously, I think that's a violation of free speech. But let's consider that perhaps the FBI no longer tells X or Twitter what to do, and that it is now a privately owned company. Elon Musk can do with it as he pleases. He now has the opportunity, the option to say, well, here is an account, ADL, which is working against my business interests. This is my own private platform. And I got no end of hell for defending social media to kick off conservatives and libertarians that I agreed with back in the day when leftists were running it, because I said it's a private platform. They could do what they want. Of course, I didn't know at the time about the government's involvement and role, but on principle, Ron, if it's a private platform and a private company, they can kick it off and do what he wants. So does Elon Musk, or should Elon Musk, kick off the ADL because it's against his business interests, or should he keep them on because he's devoted it to being a free speech platform, knowing that he already doesn't allow people like Nick Fuentes and sometimes Kanye and and Alex Jones and others on? What do you do if you're Elon?
If you're Elon, what I think you do is you keep the ADL on for two reasons. One is that it's good tactically to do that. ADL, and the second reason is that ADL is not influential at all on Twitter. In fact, it tends to get ratioed. So having them on simply provides a target and they get that feedback. They're aware, obviously, of what's going on in their social, and that just might affect their policy.
It's interesting. Ron, tell us a little bit about your own podcast. Where can we tune in?
Go to ColemanNation.com. You have to put a hyphen because someone else got that domain name. And the idea is not the nation, it's culmination, like I'm finishing, completion, culmination, or just look up Ron Coleman on the internet. Ron Coleman lawyer, though. You want to put the word lawyer in, or you're going to get someone who doesn't look at all like me and is in a very different line of work. Ron Coleman lawyer. Find me on Twitter. That's the best place to find out what's going on with the podcast Culmination. We talk about kind of the issues that we've been talking about today with you, a little bit longer form, and usually not live, but would love to have more people check it.
Ron, this was a great conversation, very enlightening, very interesting. We always love your points of view. Very underrated tweets, as they say. And you can follow him over on formerly Twitter, now X, at Ron Coleman. And Ron, we appreciate you very much. Thanks for standing up for free speech and liberty. We appreciate you very much.